Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. In today's video we're filming the book recommendation tag. This is a tag that was created by Steph Boer, or Steph Boer, I don't know how to pronounce her name, despite having watched the channel for like years at this point. It's a tag video which is really fun because if you guys didn't know, I actually started off as like a beauty lifestyle kind of YouTuber. I know, couldn't even imagine it. That was back in the day when tags were like rife. People did them all the time. So I am excited to be doing another one. So there's 15 questions, which means I've got 15 book recommendations for you. So the very first book recommendation I'm going to give you is for a book that I always tell people is my favourite. Not necessarily a book that is your number one favourite, but a book that if someone's going to ask you what your favourite book is, this is the answer you reply with. And for that, it's a no-brainer for me. I'm just going to hide sticky tabs I've got sticking out because I think they're spoilers. It's Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates. This was a book that I studied for my coursework in my English A-level, English literature A-level. This was a very well-loved annotated book and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I thought it was, stop trying to spoil the people. I thought it was incredibly well written and just created such an atmosphere and put something into words that I'd never kind of seen put into words before, which is like kind of this like yearning and like deep desire within people for more out of their own lives. It's set in the 50s, it's a modern classic. It's about a couple and their kind of dreams, aspirations, and how everything kind of comes crumbling down and apart because of their situation they're stuck in terms of like their friends or their housing and their family situation, everything like that. It's great, it's absolutely heartbreaking, but it's a really good read and the film is incredible as well. This is kind of a little bit highbrow, a little bit literary because it's a modern classic obviously, but it's also one that I want to shove in people's faces because it's so good and it's so underrated. Like no one's ever heard of this, it's ridiculous even though it's a classic. Question number 2 is a book that is your guilty pleasure, a kind of strange one, but basically this is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. So the reason why I've chosen this book is because it's a John Green book and not everyone loves him. I mean, a lot of people have opinions on this man. A lot of people really loved his books growing up, like as teenagers, and then as they've read more, they've realised kind of by its literary merit, his books aren't incredible. But this one I did really enjoy a lot. Turtles All the Way Down is about a girl who has OCD, its own voices from John Green. He too has OCD. It's about her interactions with this boy in her, I think he goes to her school, and this kind of disappearance that goes on. It's very well written, the story is incredible, the OCD rap is obviously great. Definitely not one of his most popular works, but yeah, it is a guilty pleasure because it's a John Green book and I like to go on about how good it is, but it is genuinely a good book. I got sick like a little while ago and ever since then I've had so much like gross build up in my throat. I start like losing my voice midway through every single video I film. It's really strange how it's kind of like stuck with me a little bit. It's like the after effects of like the plague. A book you hated that everyone else loves. Reread by Emily Henry. Yes, if you want to know why I don't like this video, please, why am I like hating on myself? If you want to know why I don't like this book, you can watch my video a couple of videos ago, which was my February wrap up when I go to town explaining my thoughts on it, so I'm not going to go into it here, but yeah, basically well written book, just the subject of it and the characters and things like that were not my kind of thing. Number 4 is a book you read the fastest, and for that I have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I have a couple of books that I read really quickly. I actually want to make a video about it in the future. The kind of first one that came to mind was Seven Husbands. I read like 150 pages of this like in the bath the first day I started reading it, which is just unheard of because I'm the slowest reader in the world, and also when you're in the bath it hits a point where you just need to get it out, and that didn't happen because I was so engrossed in my book. About the story of Evelyn Hugo, there's a journalist who is interviewing her. We're basically discovering why Evelyn had 7 husbands and the kind of secrets behind that. But there's kind of this mystery plotline that goes alongside it in terms of the relationship between Evelyn and her interviewer. Interviewee and the interviewer. So I think I was just really hooked by that. But yeah, absolutely fantastic book. Definitely 100% worth the hype. Can't recommend it enough, basically. And while that is a very hyped up book, the next question we have is for a book that deserves more hype. And for this I have Most of All You by Mia Sheridan. So I randomly picked this book up on Kindle because it was 99p at the time. It was in like the Kindle daily deal or whatever it's called. Otherwise I wouldn't have picked this book up, I don't think, because Mia Sheridan is really well known for her book that everyone's obsessed with, which is called Archer's Voice, which I haven't read yet. And so people only read this, it seems, because they read Archer's Voice first and they love that. I actually really enjoyed this book without having read Archer's Voice. There are moments where the main male lead kind of gets a little bit icky, just like sprinklings, but throughout the rest of it he's honestly such a sweetheart and deserves the world. My only complaint, but I gave this a 4 stars and I really did enjoy it a lot, and I think it does deserve a lot more hype. We're basically following 2 people who have both dealt with very traumatic pasts and how they kind of come together and learn to love one another kind of through that, but also to like focus on themselves in order to love each other. I think it's a really beautiful story the storytelling and everything like that, but particularly kind of the history of these people and the fact that they're not fixed by being together, but they want to fix themselves, both themselves and for the other person, which I think is really beautiful. Next we have a book that is becoming a movie or TV show. Obviously we all know that Daisy Jones and the Six was just adapted into a TV show. I haven't actually watched it yet, which is criminal because I'm such a fan. I read that book in 2019 and it's just been like in the back of my mind ever since, and the fact that it's like being adapted and it's been out for like over a week now is kind of a little bit sickening. Yeah, I plan to do that straight after this video, so hurry up filming so I can go watch it, and I'll let you guys know perhaps in the future. Although I'm filming a vlog at the moment, so maybe I'll let you know in the vlog how I'm finding the show. This whole long tangent, but the book I did not want to mention is Daisy Jones because we all know about it. So another TGR book, Malibu Rising is getting a TV show adaptation. I did not know this. Apparently they got the rights for the TV show before the book was even published. Imagine being this woman and that being your life. It's absolutely insane. This book will be adapted by Hulu into a television series. I'm hoping it's going to be great. I absolutely love this story. It basically takes place across one day as these kids kind of prepare for a party, as in like they're adult kids but they're siblings. Then we flash back in time across like a long period of time, probably like 30 years, of the kids' parents meeting and falling in love, the careers of their parents, and the just complex family dynamics within this one family that live in Malibu. It's full of tension, it's full of kind of heartbreak and this kind of fierce love for each other, which I really did love. I loved the family dynamics and I loved their mother. What's her name? June. Beautiful story, and if it's a good show then I would love to see it. A book that you have reread the most. So I've reread lots of like little short stories tons of times, but in terms of an actual novel, the book that I have to mention here is Forks by Nadine Brandes. So I've actually only reread this twice. Oh no, I've only read it twice. I reread it once, and on the reread I did annotate it like mad, and oh, this story is so beautiful. It's basically a historical fiction fantasy about Guy Fawkes. So in this book we're following his imaginary son. There's no proof that he had a son in real life. In this book he does, you just kind of have to run with it. And we're following him and his complex relationship with his father. It's got a really cool magic system. It's absolutely heartbreaking because it follows the true historical events, but the ending is so beautiful. It's heart-wrenching because it's devastating, but also there's so much peace and beauty in it. It's just, I can't go. I honestly lost my mind because I sobbed the first time I read this book and I sobbed on the reread. This sort of book that will only work for some people, but worked for me. Loved it. Also kind of underrated. So the next recommendation is going to be a book from a genre you don't typically read, and for that I chose urban fantasy because I used to be a massive fantasy girly. I've really kind of stepped away from it recently, but I do still adore it, and I'm sure that I'm going to get back into it at some stage in my life. Urban fantasy, no, just no. Basically I love fantasy because we're thrown into a different world. It doesn't even have to have any magic, but I just want to be in a different place. I want it kind of like based on history. I love like kind of Eurocentric medieval fantasy. The minute that like it's urban fantasy, as in like we're set in a city like New York or London, that's why I'm talking about this particular book series, because it's basically Cassandra Clare's books. But the book recommendation I wanted to give you was this series, which is the Infernal Devices. This is actually book 2 because I've lent book 1 out to someone. Book 2 is my favourite, so I don't really care about holding this one up instead. This book is set in London, but there is fantasy in it, so it's urban fantasy, and it's just like crushing. And it was crushing in the first series, the Mortal Instruments, where we're set in New York, because I love New York, but no, I don't know, it just seems instantly less believable, which sounds really strange, but it just does. I'm really sorry about the lighting as well, because the sun keeps going behind the clouds and then back out from the clouds. I don't know, I think just like every other aspect of it was so good, could get past the fact that it was urban. Characters are absolutely incredible, the plot was quite fun, but yeah, you really here for the characters, and this book, it's so precious. I love it. Honestly, I'm so tempted on doing a reread because Katie is reading. She just read The Lost Hours and then she's doing a reread of The Infernal Devices, and she's tempted me so much to pick these books up. Again, she's so stupid because I've got like 1,000 things on my TBR and these are all like 500 pages, so I'm not going to do it yet, but one day this shall happen. Honestly, might just reread Clockwork Prince because the beginning of Clockwork Angel was kind of tedious. Book that deserves all the hype it gets. I could have mentioned Evelyn Hugo, Malibu Rising, could have mentioned even The Infernal Devices, but I didn't want to overlap, like do two, what am I talking about? I wanted to have a separate book for every single one of these questions. So for this, I've chosen Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Stunning, stunning series. Oh, this duology is just, has my entire heart. I read these books years ago, 2018, 2019, maybe. And I just, like, look, oh, yeah, this is everything and more. Can't work out whether I preferred Six of Crows or Crooked Kingdom. I think I need to look at it on the reread. Stunning. Oh my goodness. When people dislike it, I swear they just don't give any reasons why. And I'm just like, yes, because you just can't. Like, if you don't like it, I get it. You might just not vibe with it. But like, it is fantastic in every aspect. The plot, the characters are flawless. Oh my gosh. The world, like everything is just 10 out of 10. There's honestly not a single thing I changed. It's such a solid 5-star for me. One of my favorite ever book series. Amazing. So we're basically following 6 outcasts who are brought together in order to complete a heist, and the plot is so high stakes and so intense but so good. This is a YA, but it feels so well written. Like, she definitely did not dumb it down. I love it. Okay, from one series I love to another one. The book that you usually recommend when you're asked for a recommendation. Generally, if someone specific asks for a recommendation, then I will kind of like take into account their personality and their vibe in terms of trying to find something like specifically for them. But if not, if I'm just like heading onto YouTube and I'm like, if you guys want a recommendation, the Side series. So I have kind of somehow made this book my entire personality. I don't know how that happened, but I think people are sick of me talking about it. So I think that I'm going to not do that so much anymore until I've at least read the 3rd book, because yes, I haven't even read the 3rd book in the trilogy. So what am I even saying? Basically, this was very good. The 2nd book was stunning, one of my favorite books in the world. And then the 3rd book, I've got high hopes for, but like that's the reason why I'm putting off reading it, because I'm so scared for it to not hit. I'm sure it will. I'm being stupid. So basically I need to read it like in the next couple of months. Then I can properly recommend the series. But this first book, such a refresher basically. It's YA, it's a kind of sci-fi, utopian, dystopian kind of thing. It's nothing like anything else within that genre, particularly within YA. I think the concept of this is the thing that kind of really makes it win, and the reason why I think it's a good recommendation, because it's kind of for people who want to get into reading, because it will hook you, and I feel like it could give you a good chance to kind of find something that you love about reading. But also particularly for people who have read tons of books, like particularly tons of YA books, and they're just kind of like sick of the genres this is within, but also just reading as a whole. I think this is just something new and wonderful. Click on any of my other videos and you'll see me talking about this as well. So next up is a book series that has your favorite characters. Oh my gosh. Without a doubt, like 100%. I love the characters in Six of Crows because they feel so real. The Taylor Jenkins Reid books, the Fatal Devices, stunning. But these people felt like family. I'm holding up the 2nd book in this series, which is A Court of Mist and Fury, but the series obviously starts with A Court of Thorns and Roses, the Akatar trilogy, and it's just... This series is my #1 series ever, so that basically says it all. I don't know what Sarah J. Maas put in this. I don't know whether like these people are real and she just literally wrote their life stories, because oh my goodness, you just slot right in with them. Oh gosh, I'll honestly die on the reread because I don't think I will cope. I'm kind of scared as well. For the first time this hit so hard. You never just have a crisis because like it's so good. Following Feyre, she lives in the mortal lands, but she gets kidnapped and brought into the fairylands for a crime that she commits by accident. And while she's there, she kind of falls in love with the High Lord of the Spring Court. Some drama goes down, and basically in this book we're in the Night Court and we meet all the Fae who live in that realm. The kind of core group of people in this are just everything and more. I couldn't recommend it enough. So next up is a book that you wish you could live in. And for this I have The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, or the Folk of the Air series. Like every single book this woman has written in relation to the Cruel Prince. This world, yes. It's called Elfame. This book is actually technically like an urban fantasy because we do spend some time in the real world, but most of it is not in the real world, and that's the reason why I can get behind it. Because look at this place. Like, hello? It's stunning. I honestly think I would thrive here, but I would only thrive obviously if I was a fairy. So that would be essential in order for me to live here. But it is such a beautiful world. I'm just enchanted, captivated, enamoured, all the words by it. Elfame. That's where I would love to live. But I would also love not to be involved in any of the political drama, please. I just like to be a random fairy living in that land. So the penultimate question is a book that made you cry, and for that I have Picture Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I cry a decent amount of books. Like, I've got a list on Goodreads of all the books I've cried in, but actually I haven't had a good cry in a while. I feel like it's just the stuff I've been reading has not been devastating, or I haven't been connecting with it so much. But basically, because I had so many books to choose from for this question, I decided to choose a book that I both sad and happy cried in, because happy crying is not a thing. I don't really happy cry. I happy cry kind of out of shock or surprise, like if I'm really overwhelmed by something. But I cried in Picture Dorian Gray because of some really sad things that happen in it, but also because of the writing just being that stunning. This is meant to be one of the most accessible classics. I actually don't know about that, just because I think that some of the writing is a little bit complex and there were moments that I was like a little bit bored by. But I do think that it's really good that it's kind of marketed as an accessible classic, because it means tons of people pick it up, because I really do think this is a classic that is definitely worth reading. The writing honestly was beautiful. Let me just read you a line. I feel like that's the way we could do this. I found a bit like writer. And Lord Henry struck a light on a dainty silver case and began to smoke a cigarette with a self-conscious and satisfied air, as if he had summed up the world in a phrase. There was a rustle of chirruping sparrows in the green lacquer leaves of the ivy, and the blue cloud shadows chased themselves across the grass like swallows. How pleasant it was in the garden, and how delightful other people's emotions were. Stop. One's own soul and the passion of one's friends, those are the fascinating things in life. And you will promise to talk to me all the time. No one talks so wonderfully as you do. Ah, I have talked quite enough for today, said Lord Henry, smiling. All I want now is to look at life. You may come and look at it with me if you care to. I didn't love it as much as I hoped I would, but the writing exceeded expectations. Number 15 is a book that you wish you could read for the first time. I was umming and ahhing about this question because I really didn't have a clue about what to mention in it. I even went to my bestie and I was like, what the heck do I answer for this question? Because I just don't have a clue. There's lots of books that I'd love to reread for the first time, particularly ones I mentioned on this list, like Six of Crows and Akatar and stuff like that. And she was like, what is wrong with you? Why would you not mention the book you've just finished? And I was like, ma'am, you're so right. Because I have not stopped going on to her about how much I love this book. This is a non-fiction and it's honestly just like, I just don't know what to do with myself. I'm in the biggest book hangover. I've had to read something completely different from this because I just needed like, I just didn't know where to go from here. Monkey Diaries by Jane Birkin. I finished this a couple of nights ago and I'm devastated. So this is basically Jane Birkin's diaries that she kept, but because I started reading this in November and I've just finished it in March, I feel like I have been existing alongside this woman. I know her as a friend, and the fact that her presence has just disappeared in my life the minute that I turned the final page in this book, I just don't know what to do with myself. Her diaries from 1957 to 1982. There is another volume of her diaries from 1982, I believe to 2013 or something like that. But this book was translated from French and they haven't translated the second volume into English yet. And I'm just, if they're not doing it, I'm literally about to pay someone to do it for me. Or I need to learn French ASAP. Which one would be cheaper, do you think? / take less time. I need it because I just don't know what to do with myself. But also, maybe just having the hope of eventually potentially being able to read the final book is enough. Because if I finish that second book, like what the heck would I do with myself? I'd be even more of a crisis than I am now. I have put like dots next to where I want to annotate, so I need to go back through and annotate. So I'll definitely be able to relive the experience by doing that. But yeah, this is a big 5-star. You'll hear me mention it in my March wrap up, but oh my gosh, so good. And I'd love to reread it. Like maybe I just need to reread it. Maybe that is could be good. Huge bookshelf TBR books, probably not a good idea. So there you have it, everybody. Those are the 15 book recommendations that I have for you. I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up so I can tell that you did. I had a lot of fun making this list and delivering it to you. I hope you found some new book or were able to fangirl with me over these, because heart palpitations, honestly. Some of my all-time faves are in this list, obviously. Reread. I don't know why my mood is like this today. It's like not in a really like a massive mood to film, and then I've just been kind of like hyper throughout. I film best when I'm wearing a jumper that's like 500 sizes too big for me. I don't mean to be that girl, but like I'm not like other girls girl, but it's fact. So I'll see you on Saturday for a new video, and until then, happy reading. Bye.